Good morning, everybody. Dave Schmidt along with Matt Nestor and producer Tom Warner. Let's get right to this. Right now on the phone, we have Rockford Lutheran head football coach Bruce Bazsali. They had a great night last night. They will get a big Northern Conference West win, and also James Robinson breaks the career rushing record. And, Coach, you had an excitable night last night. You okay, buddy?
I'm still here.
I was just tired watching you. You were really into that game last night. It was kind of fun, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean it was it was just one of those games. It's like, oh brother, now we're getting smacked in the mouth. How are we going to respond to this? And I was pretty happy really with the way we did. I get up this morning, I started thinking, 56-19. That's still a pretty darn good.
Right.
No.
How is that last night? We'll obviously get to James here in a minute, but how is that last night? When you guys have, really just kind of steamrolled your opponents this year, haven't really had that chance where somebody has come out and especially scored early on you like that. Did you feel good maybe learning some things about your team and how they would kind of respond in that situation?
Yeah, well, the first thing you learn, though, is that, geez, we make some mistakes, some big mistakes, and a good team is going to take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened to us early, and we were fortunate to come out of it and do well. But I hate to say this, but there was a couple calls in there I thought were a little strange. Like that first fumble, they called a fumble. I thought that was an incomplete pass. I mean, he was throwing the ball, he gets hit, the ball goes forward, 25, 30 yards, and they called it a fumble. And everybody sort of stopped. Even Byron did, except for that one kid who was pretty smart and alert and picked it up and almost ran it back. And all of a sudden, in the next play, they throw a bomb and they hit it. And they're up 7-0. It's like, uh-oh.
That's the first time you've been behind. How do you think your kids reacted to that, Coach?
I thought, well, I don't think they liked being behind. I think they were pretty upset with themselves, and I liked how they responded, and we came back, and we took a lead. We started to get control of the game, and it felt pretty good to see them do that.
Obviously a great night for your team last night, but a great night for the program. James breaks the all-time rushing record. Just how special was that last night, and just what has he meant for that program?
Well, I mean, it's just so hard to put it into words. I mean, because it's so intrinsic, really. I mean, James is there, and what I think he's done is I think he just elevated the play of all our players. And the expectations become higher and higher every time he does something great, because these kids, they don't want to be left behind by him. They want to be a part of him. They want. We have that mantra about we are one, and they know if they're going to be a part of one, they better start working hard and getting to his level. And I think it's just really, really changed our whole program. Obviously his being there. There's no doubt about it.
The one thing that's really impressed me by him, and I've talked about this a few times, is just the consistency from day one when he entered that program. He's obviously had some great seasons, but, he's not up there at the top of maybe having one of the best seasons ever as he's gotten to this record. Just how impressive has his consistency been, even from a freshman, just what he's been able to do game in, game out?
It's almost shocking, because I've had kids who have been four-year players before, and usually that fourth year is a tough year. They're used to everything. Everything's the same as it was before. It's not as exciting. It's not with him. He is like on top of it, and he just loves to play, and that's the neatest thing about him. He's a big kid who likes to play football, and that's the bottom line. He likes to play. He loves to compete, and he just enjoys it. I just love him. I love his attitude. And, it's just a pleasure.
We're talking with Rockford Lutheran head football coach Bruce Bazsali. They win the big Northern Conference game against Byron last night. Coach, you're like me. We've been around a long time, seen a lot of high school football players. I think you're in the Hall of Fame, all those things. How would you compare James to some of the kids you've seen and some of the kids you've coached over the years?
Well, I mean, to me, he's been a level above everybody else. I've gone against great kids in some great conferences, like the Miss Suburban, which is a fantastic conference with a lot of great players, but I've never seen anything like James. And, people, a lot of times, the first thing they want to do is they always want to compare, well, how can he do against bigger schools? He would do just fine. You know, he's a physical specimen. He's a competitor. He's a hard runner, and he would do great. He'd have those big lines in front of him, just like our line is not big, and most of the teams we play are bigger than us. But the way our offense is, it fits a kid like him. And so many of these teams that I've seen, have gone to the spread and run that kind of thing. And he'd be great just about anywhere.
You got the record now, and you got the touchdown record earlier. What do the next 2 weeks kind of mean for what you can do to the team? Now that some of this stuff is out of the way, and maybe some of the focus kind of falls off now. What do you guys look to do over the next 2 weeks as you get ready for the playoffs?
Well, the first thing we've got to do is we've got to make sure that we're in good shape. We can't afford, getting cramped up. We've got to find out what that was all about, why we had kids getting some cramps. I think a lot of it might have had to do with just the fact that it's the first time they played a full game in 2 years, except for the Byron game. Not the Byron, the Phillips game.
Mm-hmm.
The only one I think they won a full game, and so I think we've got to figure that out. We've got to make sure we're in really good shape. Our kids that are backups have got to be more prepared to go in. We've got to get them more and more reps so that they're ready to go. That hurt us some, and I was sort of surprised because I thought we had those kids there. They understood the importance and their role. In our situation, there isn't a kid on our team that isn't important. There isn't a kid on our team that isn't going to play at some time or another because we just don't have that kind of depth. So we've got to be prepared for that run down the state playoffs because it gets harder every game, and those backup kids have to be ready to play and have to step in and play at a higher level than what they're at right now.
How tough is that? You kind of spoke about the cramping issue and not getting to play 4 quarters that often. How tough is that? Because obviously you have the sportsmanship and the competitiveness and things that you have to think about as games go on, especially with some of the leads you guys have had. But, at some point, too, there is going to probably come a point in the playoffs where you guys are going to have a tough 4-quarter football game. How do you kind of weigh that, preparing your team for 4 quarters, but not trying to embarrass your opponent?
Yeah, it's a really fine line. I mean, we chose with we won't embarrass our opponent, but by the same token, I mean, I think it does hurt us, and we've got 2 games left, and I think we'll probably still keep our same philosophy, but we've got to just make sure that practice is set up in a certain way that we are getting ourselves ready for this state run, which has been 4A really tough.
Mm-hmm.
These schools are all bigger than us, and we can talk about that and discuss it, but the bottom line is it's the way it is, and we've got to go that road, and so we've got to be prepared for this physicality that we'll get. And the funny part is that we eyed that and talked about this all summer long, that we want to be ready for that run in the state playoff. That's one of our goals, and we're not going to be fooled by the fact that we aren't going to be in shape and we know what we have to do. So we got time, and I think we'll get there, and hopefully we can have a good show in making that run.
What I had fun watching last night was Peyton Womack and Marcus Hayes. They put on a little bit of a show too last night, Coach.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think Coach Boyer said it. I heard him talk before and said that it's not a one-man show. We've got other kids, and that showed last night. I mean, I think our line still did a great job. I mean, we still were able to put up 50. They played great defense against us. We got to look, see real close how they did it. I know, but we still were able to put up 56 points against a really good defense that and then you think about, well, James, how did he do that? Well, he had 228 yards, and he had 5 touchdowns. That's a pretty darn good night against a really good defense that sort of had our number, it seemed like. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they made it hard. Yet the fact they made it hard, we still were able to score 56 points, which makes me feel good because I think we do have an overall good team. And, even Ian Irwin and Josh Streeter out there as receivers, and Quavian Dismuke, all these kids, they can perform out there, and it's a nice luxury we have. We don't have those big linemen, but we certainly have some skilled kids that can move.
Bringing it back to James there, how did he feel about breaking the record? He's such an unassuming kid on the field. He's doing these big things, but he never seems to get, too worked up, too excited, very businesslike on the field. But now he's the all-time leading rusher in the state, and we've talked about the national rushing list, and you start looking at some of the names that, who knows what James will do beyond Rockford Lutheran, but boy, he's going to be passing some big-time names potentially here, in the football world. How does he feel about all of this?
You know what? He's very focused on the goal of winning a state championship, number one. Two, talking to him last night afterwards and things like that, I would never known he broke a record. He's just, very unassuming and very, I'm sure he felt good. You couldn't be a human and not feel good about doing something like that. And, well, maybe he's not, Really, he is from Krypton. I don't know. But he just, he was very unassuming about it. I think he was happy. He was grateful to his linemen and his teammates. But he really didn't have a whole lot to say. He didn't have a lot to say about it. Does that surprise you?
He was really good. He went through like 3 or 4 of us guys after the game last night and talked. And the only time I could get him to smile and really talk good when we talked about his defensive play and some of the big hits he had last night. Got the biggest smile I've ever seen out of James Robinson when I've talked to him. Yeah,
he likes playing defense. There's no doubt about it. And he does like to hit. And he likes to come up, and he's such an ideal safety. And I think it's his chance to lay some licks back on people who've laid some on him. So I think he likes that.
Getting back to the team here as we, get close to finishing up, obviously you guys have, goals that a lot of teams maybe don't realistically have. We're talking beyond conference and just making the playoffs, but, you guys want to make that run, potentially win a state title. As you guys, kind of look towards that, work towards that, what's something that you guys think you really need to work on to maybe take that final step?
I think we need to work on improving our depth. I think our kids do real well. Our kids know what to do. Last night we blew some assignments, and that, a lot of people talk about, missing tackles and doing these physical things. We get more upset if our kids miss a concept scheme. They make a wrong call. We allow our kids to make calls out there based on what our scouting is and all this kind of stuff. And when they make the wrong call, it's not good. And our kids are so smart, they usually don't, but we did. And we can't afford to do that. And we have to make sure that as far as our schemes go, our kids understand the schemes. They're going where they're supposed to go. Because if you're in the right place and you're not even a good football player, you got a chance of making a play. But if you, right from the first step, go into the wrong place, you're going to be pretty much dead in the water and give something up. So that's huge for us. And we had some scheme breakdowns last night, which we normally don't have. And part of that was Byron, I think, being good. I don't want to take anything away from their play because I think they're a good football team and they were physical. But we made some scheme breakdowns, and that's something that we can't allow. We can't afford that. Our game, the way we play, is based on our kids knowing where to go, number one. That's the first thing that we are concerned with, both offensively, defensively, and with special teams. And we made mistakes on all of them. We asked, who made a mistake tonight? And a couple kids raised their hand. We said, who made a mistake tonight? Finally, yeah, everybody got that hand up because everybody did. Everybody made some mistakes. We're not going to win a state championship if we make those kind of mistakes. To give us a chance, we've got to be in the right place, and that's very, very important to us. So that's what we're going to focus on the most. That's where we can improve.
Before I let you go, we've overlooked probably the biggest story last night is your all-state ball boy, Bobby Pottinger, and he continues to play well, Coach.
Yeah, he's a little tired this morning. He had a lot of running back and forth out there, and but he overcame and prevailed, and he's pushing for that record hard. So I'm sure by the end of the year he's gonna get it.
I had a good story with him. I asked him, and I said, "How was last week?" He said, "Well, last week I was sick and I couldn't go to the game." He said, "But I went to school and I threw up in class. And Bobby just looked at me, and I said, I bet you that teacher really appreciates.
Well, that is Bobby. There's no doubt about that. And I'll tell you what, it was shocking that he was not. He's been sick before, so he was really sick. Something was really wrong if he was not at a game. He doesn't. He comes to our scouting meetings.
Wow.
At all our scouting meetings, he's right there. He doesn't miss anything. He runs the projector. He runs the film for us. 4 or 5. Run it back, Bobby. No, 4 now. Bobby. Hey, go back this way. The poor kid yell at him. What? Stop! Wait! Freeze that right there. Everybody's yelling at him, but he hangs right in there. That guy's going to probably be the next Vince Lombardi someday. He's around football so much it's crazy, but he loves every second of it. I was alone with him in the room the other day waiting for coaches to come in, and he's drawing plays up on the board. I'm starting to look at him.
and you know what, Coach? He's a handsome young lad too, isn't he?
Oh, he is. He's hysterical. He's something else.
Yeah, I don't have curly blonde hair. Do you?
Oh, hey, that's a girl magnet right there. I think a quarterback someday.
Hey, thanks, Coach, so much for taking all the time today this morning. We always appreciate talking to you, and good luck as you go through the season. Hopefully, we'll get to see you at DeKalb this year.
I hope so, too. Thanks a lot, you guys, for all your support and everything you guys do.
Thanks, Coach. We've been talking to Coach Bruce Bazsali. I'll tell you what, last night he was on the field, and you would have thought it was a 7-7 game the whole game, and that's how he is.
Well, I'm sure for him, too, not just the team, getting a challenge there, but it was probably one of the first times this year that he's really been able to, get into a game, too, and, I'm sure he had those competitive juices flowing last night, too.
I love him. He's a hoot.